possible to talk about the emotional part, the pleasure, and everything else?
It's both. I mean, I think there's like a huge part of it that is like the techniques. And to be honest, since most kids wouldn't, I think that's where you get most of your information from, especially with the fact that I think too many young people can't talk to their partner about that kind of thing. So, and I think that since that's such a problem, you have to go to people you trust that you feel like they know. And with girls, it's kind of very like, you know, even if you're not their best friend, you can kind of talk about that because you're all girls. It's that kind of camaraderie thing. And I don't know, like, so there's that aspect, but in terms of the emotional aspect, you would go more towards your close friends, and if you are close with your partner, people will talk about that with them, but so much I find that like people don't even have a real connection with who they're sleeping with or having sexual experience with, that they don't even talk about that aspect, so more it's just like what'd you do? Like, how'd you do it? That kind of thing.
Well, yeah, let me follow up if I may. There's an impression people have that these days, and please correct the impression, that college students no longer quote-unquote date, that they go out with groups of peers, both of the same gender or both genders, and after lubricating or destroying their brain cells with alcohol, they hook up. And that hooking up really doesn't have anything to do with relationships so much as this sort of having a momentary
Bragging
release.
rights also.
Pardon me?
Bragging rights.
Bragging rights and momentary release. And so I'm curious, is this a correct impression that a lot of us have, or are there people your age who are interested in a real relationship where sex is part of some kind of love as opposed to just sort of screw?
Right. Okay, so I guess the impression I had of college was that it was going to be like your impression was, and I was really uncomfortable with that because I don't obviously think that's healthy. And getting to college, I'm actually quite happy that I chose the dorm, the nerdy dorm, because that's where all my friends are from my dorm, and they have a much more rational idea of that. I know kids who go out, get really drunk, hook up, do whatever, then tell all their friends the next day, oh, I totally got laid, good stuff, you know? But all my friends have boyfriends or girlfriends. My male friends all have girlfriends, my female friends all have boyfriends. We're all in committed relationships. And the majority of us would say we're in love with the person we're with. Yeah, actually all of my friends who are in relationships are in love currently. And, you know, so, and then sexuality is a part of that, and like there is obviously, we do go out in groups together and get drunk, but we also go on dates and we also do couple things. So.
You better leave the room.
He knows. So, yeah. So, I mean, I definitely have, I've known people, like I have friends that go to other universities. I don't know that many kids at NYU, honestly, that are like that.
Huh.
But I have friends at other universities that are very involved in like frat life, which has a big aspect of that, which is an institutionalization of that, basically. And I have a lot of friends who are at schools that proclaim to be like progressive liberal hippie schools that, you know, they're like, everyone's just having sex with everyone, you know, no big deal. But the kids that I hang out with, the kids that I know are all in committed relationships.
It just, I mean, there's a piece of background. First of all, what she calls the nerdy dorm is a positive statement, and she explained that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, these are the basically, what that translates into, these are basically nice,
Smart.
basically pretty bright, smart kids. But it was also interesting that she, on her own, and the friends that are there in this particular dorm, researched the dorm, was self-selecting because this was a particular dorm.
You had to apply to the housing.
Where you had to apply, and it involved community service, and it involved being interactive with other kids. So it's a specific kind of dorm that the kids that you're talking about would never in a million. And the few that wind up there.
Some got stuck there because there wasn't enough application to the dorm, and they complain and they make a lot of noise and they make my floor smell like weed, and it's just annoying and no one likes them.
Well, the ones that are hooking up are probably going to the Catholic University where I teach.
Yeah.
Of the relationships you're talking about, or even anyone else, does anyone actually, do they ever make any reference to families or future type orientation?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people sort of see it as something that could progress, like the relationships that are something. Is that what you're asking?
Or are they being explicit? Like, are they talking explicitly about, you know, when they're going to get their house, when they're going to have their kids, and that, I mean, that kind of. You know,
I mean,
like
I
they did
think
50 years ago.
I think people acknowledge that it's something that it's on their mind,
It's not like real strong.
but it's not like, oh, we just, you know, we're committed to each other, so we're gonna get married, and that's what it's gonna be like. Because I think to plan like that would be considered too like preemptive.
So it's not a priority, right?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like, everyone plans for the future. Like, personally, I plan for the future with my boyfriend. However many years down the road we need to plan for something. And then if stuff changes by then, it changes, and that's just how it is. We're not saying, you know, like, we make plans to go to Europe next year, but if something happens, that's not happening, obviously, but we have that, we know that, we've talked about that, and we want to make plans that we want to make. So yeah. Anyone else?
Got that? Good question, huh?
No other questions?
I will ask you a question.
Okay.
As soon as.
Can you give us an idea what will be the best way of reaching young people and giving the education? Whether school will be receptive to that, or what will be your suggestion?
I don't think, well, schools won't be receptive to it, and the general American population won't either. And even unless you start from very young, even the kids won't, because in most of my sex ed classes through high school and elementary school, middle school, I was the only one comfortable, because I was the only one who had it, like, as I said, I've been learning it since I was a little kid, so it's ingrained in me. I don't remember learning it. It's just always been part of my knowledge. You know, sexual education, healthy sexual attitudes. So I think teaching it through school isn't really helpful, because you have to learn it from before that. You have to learn it as you're learning how to talk and how to walk, you know? I don't think it's something that can be like you sit in a class and learn from a book. That stuff comes later when you have to understand that, because everyone does, but the attitudes toward it have to be taught from birth, from childhood, early childhood.
Does that connect to like your empowerment as a young woman? Because certainly my generation of women had to deal with feminism in a different kind of way, and you know, because part of our sexuality had to do with not being able to define for ourselves what we really wanted, and you know, needing to please the man, all that stuff that at your age we weren't even thinking about. I mean, from our own point of view. But it seems to me that maybe that's also another tacit set of knowledge you have.
What, the feminist?
That you're already kind of self-empowered in a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
As a girl or as a young woman.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think there's kind of a backlash against it in some ways, against the feminist ideals, because my mom was involved in the feminist movement, and I've been taught about that since I was a little girl too, and I kind of agree with what they were. I mean, I totally agree with what they were doing, and I don't know. I've never marriage isn't number one. Pleasing a man is number one. It's everyone's an individual, and you have to take care of yourself too. But it's also about finding someone you love. So the sort of the feminist ideology comes into it in that I don't have to be subjected to anything, and it's kind of my choice. That's the only way it comes into it. So in some ways, sexuality isn't a feminist or anti-feminist thing in my mind, and I think it shouldn't be. It's a natural function, and it shouldn't be involved with political ideologies or socio-political ideologies. And I think that it was important for the feminist movement to say that women have the right to do what they want with their bodies, and sexuality should be open and everything. And I think that was a great thing, and that has made it so that people can believe that it shouldn't be part of a social or political ideology, but I think now that we've passed that point, we can think of it as just something that's a normal human function and it's primal.
Yeah, her mom, her mother, who's as it said, is a midwife and had been a dance therapist, but it runs is one of the executives in a national program that works with young first